Okay, Mr. Keyser, are you with us now?
I am with you.
Okay, so the mayor's report, you have sent your emailed version. If you could just kind of not spend a lot of time on that, but anything else you want to add, then we can ask questions.
So let me just highlight a few areas that I think are important to highlight. One, on the COVID, I just want to reemphasize that we have 3 sites for testing.
Thank you. Ms. Leon-Bruno.
Thank you for that report. So I had a couple of questions about the update in the COVID. Over the weekend, there was a party, I guess, at one of the houses of somebody on Everett Ave. And I know the girl that had, I guess it was her neighbor, and she had gone over, and I guess there were a bunch of people there. So I guess the police were called, and then I guess they came out and they said that they can't break up parties and that it's not up to them. And I guess they came back and then told the woman that called I guess the non-emergency line, that if she goes over there again, that they would, she could get charged. So it was a bit of mixed messages. So I did put I reached out to the chief, and he gave a clarifying policy, basics, I guess, a statement saying that, they go out and they record, and then they give the report to the Board of Health. So my question is, though, it looks like we had only given out 1 fine, and I saw something on Boston 25 or something that the amount of fines that have been given out all over the state, and it looks like we're, only 1 that I know of. So I guess it's a couple of questions. Is where are we at on this? Because we are now in the 6th week of being read, and our numbers are 44. I did see the mayor make a comment about that and said it sounds small, but to me, I think 44 sounds ridiculously high, considering we were going, I thought, in a better direction last week. I'm really concerned by the numbers. And so how many public health inspectors do we have going out? Because if we only have 1, and you have a bunch of these other cities had, in the tens and, up to 100 fines that they've given out, and we're, like I said, we're in our 6th week. How is that process? How many health inspectors are working? I'm assuming they're all back to work. And how is that working? And then second part of that was, I believe Secretary Sutters had a meeting with the legislation, the state reps, and I guess they were discussing best practices for plans in the different communities. And I'm wondering if you could address what you know of that too. Thank you.
So you covered a range of things. As far as the police, I know the chief has put out a statement. I don't have it in front of me to read it or quote from it, but generally speaking, I mean, the police are getting the calls for the parties and having to respond, and it puts them in a tough spot in the sense that they're going to try to engage, inform the people that they're in violation, break it up. But right now, we're not going to arrest people, walk in and arrest people for having a party. If there is a disturbance and, there are other issues that engage, obviously, they're going to do what they have to do. The mechanism we're utilizing on the COVID is the police are ensuring that they are putting the right information in their reports that articulate what, over the number of people and such, and providing that to the health department and letting the health department use their powers to issue fines and to either property owner or who's ever can be determined to be responsible. That's the mechanism we're using. The police will use their discretion on how they how best to go forward in that. So I know the chief put out a statement. I don't have it right with me, but we can put that back out if need be. In regard to the health inspectors, they've been working all through the whole COVID situation, they have been fully engaged with the population. They're doing a lot of contact tracing. They're doing a lot of outreach and engaging with the population. And I don't know what the total number, but it's a bunch more than one inspector. They're out there doing their jobs, and they've been working pretty hard through this whole, what are we, 6 months in, endeavor. So we have them out there. As far as the Mary Lou Sutters, I don't have details on a meeting with the legislators. I was part of an earlier meeting that included the mayor and Mary Lou Sutters and others. I don't have any details in regard to conversations with the legislators. Somebody that was there would have to provide me or help put out the information on that one.
Mr. Steiner.
Thank you. Mr. Kieser, could you talk about the emergency small business grant program and housing assistance? And I know you provided an update on that in writing. I'm curious about why, we've been, I think, awarded 1.4 million in funds for these programs, and we've spent a very small proportion of that. And in the small business grant program, we've only approved 40 out of 97 applications. And you said that of the emergency housing assistance, only 47 residents out of 180 applicants have been approved and received funding. What is the source of the bottleneck there in terms of getting funds into the hands of businesses and residents that really need them?
Well, for one, the initial funds we used were available CDBG funds that we were able to put out, and then other funds, CARES Act funds, came and supplemented. So it's come in allotments. So there was a process there. Initially, when the programs were stood up, creating the processes, applications, the folks worked hard and fast to get that out on the street. And a lot of applications came in. A lot of applications, again, this is federal funds that require certain documentation. And so one of the challenges for the staff processing was a lot of having to go back to the applicants and get the appropriate documentation that the feds required. And all that hit at the same time that we had turnover in staff, and we had staff out on sick leave for an extended period and other vacancies. So we've had to the additional funds that'll bring us. I have the number here somewhere, like 1.4 million in total that comes in that we are dispersing back out to the community. So,
Ms. Shepherd.
Brian or me?
No, you.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Shepherd.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to a couple meetings ago when I point out that the strategy from the state would not help Framingham, that the funds would be better used on a different kind of outreach that could really help us to contain the virus. We can see that the spread continue to be among the workers, manual laborers from immigrants community. We need a different strategy. We need to work with the immigrants community leaders and together see how we can do a better job to contain the spread. The spread, of course, they come from the work site and bring them home. And I receive a lot of calls from people asking information about the testings, which is great. I think we're gonna need to spend the timeline for the test. I think October 1 would not be enough, but I would like to see a different strategy to try to contain the spread in Framingham, since we know where the spread is occurring, in which part of the community and why it's occurring. So I'd like to see if the city is doing anything in that direction.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of things, but I think most pertinent to your comments is that, you know, the state has brought in outreach teams to assist, and our folks have been working with them where they set up information shops and tables, and they look for setting up in areas where there's people coming and going to provide the information. So I know that's one area that the state's helping the city in that effort, as well as our own folks reaching out to the populations, and especially to make sure that both printed material and radio information and such are in multiple languages, and reaching out as much as possible to the populations of the different languages. Bless you.
Yeah, although I appreciate that, I don't think this is doing anything to help us. I think the community is well informed. You know, they have access to information in Portuguese and Spanish, and they spread continual core. So I think the funds are not being used wise when you have people here working to distribute flyers and hand sanitizers and masks. And it's not changing. We keep going higher, higher and higher. So we need a different strategy. We need to do something else. And the state can help us provide funds for another kind of work, and not something just to take the mind off the situation. We need results.
Yes, agree. And I know the mayor has regular conversations with the lieutenant governor, with the other mayors who are all facing this challenge. So it's an ongoing effort to try to do, as you say.
Thank you.
Jordan, can I just make a clarification, just to make sure, just a point of clarification? What I was told by the police chief was that it's the building, the Department of Health that's going to give out the fines. So
Right.
I would like to see more fines given from the city of Framingham to people, because if you start pounding them with fines, that's going to make a difference. You see a lot of these communities that are enforcing. Some places $1,500. Those are the places that I see it stopping, that I've been reading a little bit about. So we need to go hit them where their money is, and that's what's going to make a dent. Not doing nothing, or not doing the same thing over and over and wondering why we haven't. It hasn't changed. And to
point of clarification, the inspectors, we could use more inspectors out there, but the plan, as I was told, was that police would give them information on these gatherings, and then the Board of Health would be providing the fines. So I am hazarding to guess that there hasn't been that much information forthcoming on these large gatherings as of yet. I hope it will pick up, is what I'm saying.
Mr. Keyser, how many health inspectors do we have?
As inspectors, I don't know the exact number as far as who's defined as inspectors. My sense is around four to six, I think, are inspectors, and there are other people.
Let's go with 5. Okay, I think 5 might be it. I'm not sure, but let's go with 5. Now, are they all working every day in the field, out in the field? I can't believe this is true. I'm sure it's bad information I got, but someone told me they work from home half the time. That couldn't possibly be true about frontline inspectors, right?
Well, it depends on what their task is at hand. If they're working on contact tracing and such, they may be working.
I thought the public health nurses were doing contact tracing.
Yeah. I mean, Sam Wong can answer that better than I can as to how they're using their folks. But
can you assure us our 5 health inspectors are working in person every day?
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are working.
in person in the memorial
Yeah.
building or
Yeah,
on the field.
They're either in the memorial building, they're either out in the field, or
They're not, none of our health inspectors are working from home, correct?
Sam will have to answer that question as to where folks are working from, because they have inspections and they have administrative tasks.
Your hand is very prominent, so I
Yeah, I
can't.
try that so you know I want to talk.
Yes, I know that. I feel like you're coming out of my computer
I
at me.
got the same information you did. And last week, one of my District 6 constituents called 3 times the Board of Health, and you get an answering machine. And I know that's okay. But you know something, in the world we're living in today, you would think we could have a dedicated line and talk to a human being or a person. People want to talk to somebody and feel good.
Did you also hear that there were health inspectors not working in the?
Yes, that's exactly what I heard, okay?
Yes,
We're asking about an action plan or a plan. There is no plan. That's the problem. We can't stick to a plan because there is no plan. We all found that out today when we were asked to give a statement. You know, we give plans and statements for everything under the sun. The sun comes up, we talk about it. The sun comes down, we talk about it. You know, this is personal to me and my family. And I'm going to tell you, Framingham's doing an absolutely lousy job, okay? And if anyone wants to disagree with me, come tell it to my wife, okay? We're doing a lousy job. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any further discussions for Mr. Keyser? No, Mr. Cannon.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Keyser, would you like to talk about that a little bit? I too was alarmed. There's a longer conversation that we need to have about how the city treats and I think abuses the Freedom of Information Act and its public records processes. But I was really troubled to learn that there was no written plan. I mean, and then to read this morning in the Framingham source and then see the FOIA documents that the city provided. It's really troubling. Could you share with us some insight?
So I haven't seen the article, but in regard to the issue, as I understand it, is
I'm not asking about the article. I'm asking about the lack of a plan, and that was sent from the mayor's office.
And so what we don't do is write a bunch of documents, put them in a binder so that we have a plan on the shelf. What we do is we meet, we discuss as a leadership team, discuss what actions need to be taken, and we do respond. And that's what we've been doing. Like I said, for the first 3+ months, we were meeting 7 days a week. As the situation normalized, we go back to 5, and now we meet 3 times a week. That's how you respond to an incident like this, of continuing the services in the city, maintaining essential services for this community through these challenging times.
Well, Mr. Keyser, it's not, I think maybe that your characterization of a plan is putting it in a binder and not looking at it. I think what I'm looking at and what communities that are more successful than Framingham at combating this virus and the spread, they seem to be developing a plan and executing it, not putting it in a binder, but actually executing it. So that's, and frankly, I've been hearing that there is a plan from you and the mayor for all these many months. It's often followed up after hearing there's no playbook we weren't given a playbook, but we have a plan on you, but it's been months and months and we don't seem to be making progress. We're not even standing still. We're going backwards, sir.
Somehow I don't think you're sorry, but
any update? We're coming days away from that grant that I've asked about a few times. At one point you were talking about consultants. Hopefully there's, like the schools have, by the way, the schools have to file a COVID plan with the state, but like the schools with filing for that MOD grant, the Mass Office of Disability, in other communities, shovel-ready, actual physical projects, not consultants and software. Any update there?
yeah, we're working on the applications that do include projects.
What will they be? That's great news.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Keyser?
Can you just follow up in an email with those details, Mr. Keyser? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Damn it.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
myself, yes. Ms. Shepherd,
Yes.
Ms. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Stefanini,
Yes.
Mr. Leon
I didn't mean to scream it out so loud, but yes.
the case.
Yes.
Natural.
Ms. Bryant? Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mr. Stuart Morales,
Yes.
and Mr. Aviani, the last word tonight.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's a
Thank
wrap.
you all very much. Very successful.
Thank you,
meeting. Thanks a
guys.
lot.
Good night, everyone.
Wear your
Thank
mask
you.
and join the working groups.
Right.
That's to the public.